Welcome to the Broadway.com show, filmed right here in the heart of Times Square. I'm Ryan Lee Gilbert.
And I'm Beth Stevens. Today we head to Broadway's The Band's Visit on opening night, take you behind the scenes at a photo shoot with School of Rock stars, celebrate The Lion King's 20th anniversary, and more.
And later, we sit down with Mark Helgenberger to talk about the off-Broadway production of Teresa Rebeck's What We're Up Against. But first, let's get started with the news. What's the buzz, Beth?
Kelly O'Hara better brush up her Shakespeare, and she has over a year to do it. The Tony winner will return to Broadway in February of 2019 to star in a new revival of Kiss Me Kate as Lily Vanessy, the leading role she performed at last year's Roundabout Theatre Company benefit concert. Kiss Me Kate is the 1948 Cole Porter and Sam and Bella Spewak's musical comedy in which a couple of divorced performers find themselves starring opposite each other in a musical version of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, and they can't decide if they're enraged, enamored, or enormously confused whenever they cross paths out of character. The production will be directed by Scott Ellis and choreographed by Warren Carlyle, and it will mark O'Hara's first return to the Great White Way since she won a Tony Award in 2015 for The King and I. No word yet on additional casting, creative team, or a venue for Kiss Me Kate, but we'll keep you posted.
That Kelly O'Hara certainly plans ahead. 2019?
That Kelly O'Hara is way ahead of us.
The stage musical adaptation of King Kong, directed by Olivier Award winner Drew Maccone, will officially open November 8, 2018 at the Broadway Theatre, following a 2013 world premiere in Australia. Featuring a book by Harry Potter and the Cursed Child scribe Jack Thorne, and a score by Marius DeVries and Eddie Perfect, the King Kong musical is based on the 1932 novel, follows a young actress and a maverick filmmaker as they voyage from 1930s New York to an uncharted island to capture the greatest wonder the world has ever seen, and stars a 20-foot-high, 2,000-pound gorilla brought to life by a team of artists and technicians. Human casting for the production will be announced at a later date.
Have you ever said human casting before?
Just thank me for not saying ape-tastic.
Really, thank you. Hamilton mastermind and star Lin-Manuel Miranda will once again take on the title role in the smash hit musical, but wait for it, the production will be in Puerto Rico. Miranda will reprise his role for a 3-week run at Teatro UPR, the theater at the University of Puerto Rico's main campus in San Juan, from January 8th through the 27th in 2019. The composer, performer, and certified genius said it has long been a dream of his to bring Hamilton to PR, and the devastation brought on by Hurricane Maria in September encouraged him to expedite the announcement of the project. As you probably know by now, Miranda has played a major part in the hurricane relief effort, with his song Almost Like Praying topping the charts and raising hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Hispanic Federation. Miranda said he wants to, quote, send a bold message that Puerto Rico will recover and be back in business stronger than ever.
2019 again, huh?
That Lin-Manuel Miranda is ahead of everybody.
Except Kelly O'Hara. Scarlett Johansson, along with fellow Avengers Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Jeremy Renner, Robert Downey Jr., and fellow MCU cast members Frank Grillo and Maximiliano Hernandez, partnered with the John Gore Organization for a benefit reading of Thornton Wilder's classic play Our Town at Atlanta's Fox Theater on November 6th. The star-studded event was directed by Tony winner Kenny Leon and managed to raise $500,000 for the Hurricane Maria Community Relief and Recovery Fund, with over 3,500 tickets sold. Funds from the benefit will be used for immediate relief, recovery, and rebuilding in Puerto Rico for low-income communities hit hardest by the storm in September. Johansson and her fellow Avengers are currently in Atlanta, working on the 2-part Avengers Infinity War, which will arrive in theaters on May 4th, 2018.
Let's check in on some new Broadway casting. Tony nominee and former Swonderful Broadway.com vlogger Max von Essen is set to take over the role of Gleb in Anastasia on December 5th. Ramin Karimloo, who originated the role, will play his final performance on December 3rd. Von Essen earned a 2015 Tony nomination for An American in Paris and has also been seen on Broadway in Les Miserables, Jesus Christ Superstar, Dance of the Vampires, and Evita. Meanwhile, over at School of Rock, a new class of actors are joining the cast. Annalisa Leeming, currently appearing in Hello Dolly, will join the cast in the role of Principal Rosalie Mullins beginning on November 20th. Leeming succeeds Jen Gambatese, who played her final performance on November 3rd. Laurie E. Marinacci will assume the role of Rosalie from November 6th through November 19th. 2 Broadway newbies made their debuts in the show on November 6th. Jonathan Gould is the show's new Ned, and Badia Farah has taken on the role of Ms. Scheinkopf at the Winter Garden Theater.
Signature Theater announced that its new acclaimed production of Stephen Adly Guirgis' Jesus Hopped the A-Train has been extended for a third week. The play, which is directed by Mark Brokaw and follows a 30-year-old bicycle messenger who's incarcerated in Rikers Island and awaiting trial for the death of a religious cult leader, will now run through December 3rd at Pershing Square Signature Center. And John Patrick Shanley's The Portuguese Kid is extending for the second time off-Broadway due to popular demand. The production, which stars Jason Alexander and Sherry Renee Scott and tells the story of two mismatched couples living in Providence, will now play through December 10th at MTC's New York City Center Stage 1.
When we come back, we'll hit the red carpet with the stars of the band's visit on opening night, meet the cast of Broadway's The Children, and more.
This week on Broadway.com, Cheyenne Jackson revisits Sexy Time with Audra McDonald on Show People. Sweeney Todd stars Hugh Pinero and Carolee Carmello play Never Have I Ever. The band's visit starred John Cariani on Side by Side, and more.
You got to get up every morning.
For Carole King, finding the top of the charts was easy. Finding her own voice was beautiful. Beautiful, the Carole King musical.
Hi, I'm Uma Thurman, and you're watching the Broadway.com show.
Welcome back. The Lion King is celebrating its 20th anniversary on Broadway. This week, original cast members, the award-winning creative team, and one surprise guest, the Lion King's superstar composer Elton John, headed to the Minskoff Theatre for a celebratory performance of the Tony-winning smash. Here's a look who's on the starry red carpet.
And the circle of life.
We're celebrating Disney's The Lion King on Broadway, our 20th anniversary.
Tonight was completely electric. It was so great to have all of the alumni in the audience. I really have no words for it right now. I'm still kind of shaking. Being part of this legacy just feels really humbling.
To have Sir Elton John, you know, and the whole creative team of The Lion King, and to see all the faces that put the show together, it blew me away. It blew me away.
You're performing for all of these people that have done the show before. They understand what it takes. They understand the creative process. They understand what we're doing, but they're also like supporting and loving us at the same time. It was, there will never be a performance like this again. It was once in a lifetime magical experience.
The Lion King's major milestone is a reminder that it's been sold out for 2 decades. Here's what stars have to say about why the musical is such a Broadway hit.
It's the humanity of it, that's it. And it's also that it's pure theater. And audiences are so tied up with television and iPhones and computers that when they come and see this show and they're surrounded by the theatricality, it reminds them deep down of what make-believe is, what the suspension of disbelief is.
I think it's the music, I think it's the staging and what they've done with the costumes and the sets, the story is so universal and so beautiful, and you add in all those other elements and it's just magic.
It's just an amazing show for families, for children, for adults. What an amazing story. I mean, it is a pleasure, an honor to be a part of it.
Every audience member that comes down to sit and watch and experience The Lion King can relate to some part of it.
Everybody at some point, you know, was that teenager that my good friend and roommate Jelani Remy plays, Simba. You know, everybody had a rebellious phase. You know, there are parents who come to see the show who can relate to what Mufasa's going through. So I think that there's something for everybody.
There's so many different messages and through lines that are so connected to the heart, and I think that's what keeps the show so special and fresh, is that it goes straight to your heart. And everybody's got one of those.
What happens when you mix a couple of Broadway's funniest stars, arcade games, tattoos, pizza, and beer? The party will rage, of course. Check out what happened when we jammed with School of Rock's 2 Dewey Finns, Justin Collette and Connor John Galuli, and snapped pics of them playing Pac-Man, getting inked, and more. Trust us, you're going to want to be a part of this scene.
David Yazbek and Itabar Moses' new musical, The Band's Visit, opened on Broadway on November 9th after an acclaimed world premiere at Off-Broadway's Atlantic Theater Company last year. This gem of a show about an accidental cultural exchange between an Egyptian police band and the Israeli denizens of a remote desert village after a mix-up at the border stars Tony Shalhoub and Katrina Lenk.
It's such an unlikely kind of Broadway show. It sort of hinges a lot on silences and looks and what's going on internally. But the characters, even though there's many of them, we see them in short vignettes, we feel invested in them.
What I love about them is how real and grounded and absent of extraneous stuff all of them are. I feel like instantly, like I know who these people are, like I've been this person or I've seen these people, and so they're instantly identifiable.
Every single person in the show is in a point in a love story, but these people happen to be isolated, and it is about the searching for these things, how we succeed and fail at those things, and also some of them are of our own making and are possibly solvable.
The musical's realistic, relatable, and riveting characters, brought to life by some of theater's most gifted performers, are just part of what makes The Band's Visit already a season favorite. But it's the show's harmonious celebration of human connection and compassion that leaves its audiences swooning.
Many of the barriers between people, national borders, cultural barriers, are man-made and essentially imaginary, and that the things that are universal and human, like food and music and love, unite us, and that when you're in a situation where those imaginary barriers are stripped away, people immediately begin to connect on those fundamental levels.
I am inherently about doing sort of different, off-the-wall, human things, and when I was asked to come on board with this show, the way that it showed like the laughter and the humanity and the pain and the longing, I wanted to tell that story.
It's a kind of environment we've never been in a musical on Broadway. And hearing these accents and these different foreign languages all mixed together, and I just think it has a really unique quality.
Lucy Kirkwood's The Children, which was a hit at London's Royal Court last year, will have its American premiere at the Samuel J. Friedman Theatre beginning on November the 28th. We caught up with Kirkwood, director James MacDonald, stars Francesca Annis, Ron Cook and Deborah Findlay to learn more about the play.
They are 3 retired nuclear engineers, and they live in this cottage, and suddenly they get a visitor from the past, and there's a mystery why she's there.
It's how they cope with that situation and where they've come to in their lives, because obviously, you know, time, we've all changed and everything, and then how we take responsibility, basically, for professional actions particularly that we've had.
Lucy, the writer, looks at all the different options, and I think what she's so brilliant at doing is she asks the audience to make up their own minds about who's right and who's wrong and what would you do.
It tackles climate change and responsibility, and it's a very important thing to be saying at the moment.
I was interested in writing the play because I've been trying to find a way to write about climate change for a really long time, because it's something that concerns me deeply. And in terms of making it theatrical, I think that the theatre is a space of emotion, so it's actually about investigating the emotional lives of these people and what are the emotional states they find themselves in when faced with a similar crisis and faced with an ecological disaster.
The cast and director explain why they're eager to tell this story stateside and why they admire Lucy Kirkwood's original voice as a playwright.
I think she's absolutely the real deal and is already one of our most important playwrights, and I think she's going to go on and write a bunch more brilliant plays, and I think that because she has absolute mastery of her craft.
I wanted to talk about this issue in a way that didn't make audiences feel lectured to, because I think that's my pet hate going to theatre. You don't want to feel lectured, but how do you have an important conversation without lecturing people? And I think hopefully that's what the play does.
Everybody who came to see it, who we talked to, was absolutely blown away by it. It makes you think, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry. It's just electric.
When we return, we sit down with Emmy winner Marg Helgenberger about returning to the stage and what we're up against.
As the popular star of CSI for 12 years, Marg Helgenberger was one of the top paid women on television. These days, she's returned to her theater roots to explore the struggles of women in the workplace in Teresa Rebeck's What We're Up Against at the Women's Project Theater. We recently sat down with the Emmy winner to find out what brought her back to the stage. Hi, Marg. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be here.
Oh, you're off Broadway. You're back on stage. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, especially now, I think the show's in pretty good shape. We've had a few previews already.
It is in good shape. I saw it.
And yes, thank you. And it's a wonderful cast and great piece of writing. And I'm proud to be in that company of that stellar group.
So I know you did The Little Foxes last year at Arena Stage, right?
Yes.
Which I heard was fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
So it seems like you're kind of putting energy into doing theater work.
Yes. I've been trying to get back to the stage. Well, I had years of doing a lot of television and film work. I'd always wanted to go back. I mean, I did a lot of staged readings and that kind of thing, and benefits. When I did The Other Place in the Berkshires at the Barrington Stage Company, it was the first time I'd done a full-blown production of a play since college. But I did it. Now I have this Little Foxes I did, and then now What We're Up Against.
I love it. So What We're Up Against, this is Teresa Rebeck's play. She sort of wrote this years ago. I think she's been working on it. It's sort of been something, it sounds like she's been kind of living with this script for a long time.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that she wrote it as a one-act, and it was in conjunction with some kind of a workshop thing in which women writers were kind of trying to emulate male playwrights or something, and this was like her kind of answer or homage to David Mamet.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So let's set it up. We're in an architectural firm, right?
Yes.
Krista Rodriguez, who's very known to our viewers.
Yes.
She plays sort of this young girl who was recently hired. You play Janice. Janice has been there a while, right? She sort of knows the landscape.
Well, Janice has been at the firm for 6 years, and Janice is one of those people so dependable. You can count on her. She will take on menial tasks as much as she doesn't really like to. She'd much rather have more of a design input, but she realizes that this is how you keep your job and how you do advance. And I guess she has been given opportunities to design now. Krista. Her character's name is Eliza. She comes in hot shot out of a architectural firm, and she just doesn't understand the way it works. She just thinks, I don't know why I can't design this. I am certainly skilled, and she just takes it upon herself to be a little sneaky about it and prove her point that I am capable and even more capable than some of these, as she says, boneheads that you've hired.
What do you think it says about sort of women working together, working maybe a little against each other? I mean, it explores this dynamic between them.
Yeah, I like the
really
fact that all of the characters, all of the characters are flawed, and I do like the fact that sometimes women she addresses in the play that women do sometimes undermine each other, and I like that. I like that people, everybody's got their good side and their bad side, and I think. And given the fact that there's a big generational difference between Eliza and Janice, so I think Janice probably does feel, even though she's always taken the high road, and I think she probably does feel a little threatened by this young upstart who is talented. She'll acknowledge that, but people have to do what they have to do in order to survive.
Do you think this says anything, this play says things about the world larger than this, your Hollywood experience, or is there anything sort of larger here? You've had amazing success. I mean, you were one of the highest paid women on television, right? CSI.
At one time I was,
It's a huge success. So you've sort of seen the top of your game.
No, I mean, certainly I think the themes that are explored in this play apply to any business, and it's certainly, obviously what's happening, and there's a lot of attention on what happens in Hollywood right now, the harassment and sexual assault charges against numerous men, and which is appalling. It's just, it's revolting. I mean, I personally have not had any experience with being sexually harassed. I will say, though, I've certainly been subjected to misogyny. I mean, just being on a set, and I had already been seasoned, actor at this point. It's first ADs. I'd be in a scene with an actor who's number one on the call sheet, and I'm number two, and the first AD, who's a guy, would direct all the directions from the director just to him. I mean, not even like make eye contact with me. And we're in the scene together. And I finally said something. I just was like appalled by it. I said it to my co-star, and he goes, "What are you talking about?" He was completely oblivious to it. And I go, so I just went directly to the source and nipped that in the bud. It's so irritating and it's so annoying. And sometimes you speak up, and sometimes you just say, "Let it go. It's just not worth the hassle." And that's sort of what Janice that reflects what Janice does in the play. She kind of like, there's a lot of times in which she's been dismissed or like had some sort of like snarky comment made about her, and she just kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna like let that slide off my back and continue on and carry on and take the high road.
Right. I've loved you in so many things over the years.
Thank you.
China Beach and Erin Brockovich come to mind immediately.
Thanks.
I love those especially. But I'm really upset I didn't see your Blanche Dubois. Isn't that where it all started?
Yes.
I mean, that was sort of like a bit. How old were you when you played Blanche Dubois?
I was 20, I think. I was 20, because I was at Northwestern.
Right.
And yes, in fact, prior to that, because I had gone to a college in Nebraska for 2 years and then transferred to Northwestern. And at that college in Nebraska, I did a lot of musicals, and as well as, I did a couple at Northwestern
really?
too. I know, Krista said that to me too. She says,
I want to hear about your musicals.
She said, you've got a pretty good voice, because there's all that great 90s music in the in the play, and we'll sing along backstage, right? Anyway, so I did all these musicals, and then I
tell me a few musical roles. Just come on.
I was in Three Penny Opera with, get this, I played Low Dive Jenny, and the one of the women that was in my brothel, harem, whatever, was Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
Wow. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I know. Mame.
Mame? Yes. Were you Mame?
No, I wasn't. I was this character, Gloria Upson.
Okay.
And I was in Kismet. I was in Pippin.
Okay.
Guys in Dolls.
Magic to do.
You
had a lot of magic to do. You did it. Yeah, you did a lot of this stuff. I love it. Okay.
Yeah. But so then, Streetcar Named Desire, I did. That was. I had done plays before, but that was like that's so iconic and like everybody. Blanche Dubois is like considered to be one of the great roles for women of all time, and so that, and after having done put myself through the paces of that play, I thought maybe I could have a career at this, because it's so demanding, and I did it at such a young age. Of course, it's one of those roles that you keep thinking, oh, I'm going to come back to that when I'm the right age. And now I've passed that age.
I don't know. I would still like to see you do it.
Thanks. I would too. I mean, like the stage. That's what's another one of the great things about the stage is that your age range. It's not like a camera where you're so like.
You look fantastic.
Matter. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just hope you can do more theater. I'm excited you're on stage.
Thank you. Me too.
And what we're up against is playing through November 26th.
Correct.
At the Women's Project Theater on the Upper West Side.
With a possible extension to December 3rd.
Possible extension. And it's a little intimate theater, and it's so great to be in there close to this amazing cast.
Oh, I mean, that front row. We're literally like a foot.
You can smell them, they're so close. Well, thank you for coming by, and congratulations, and I hope we get to see you do more on the stage.
I hope so too. Thank you.
When we come back, we take a look at Kinky Boots stars Billy Porter and Stark Sands' new acoustic version of Not My Father's Son.
You got to get up every morning. For Carole King, finding the top of the charts was easy. Finding her own voice was beautiful. Beautiful, the Carole King musical.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne Jackson, and you are watching the Broadway.com show.
Thank you for watching the Broadway.com show.
We leave you with Kinky Boots' Billy Porter and Stark Sands performing an incredible acoustic rendition of Not My Father's Son.
See you next week.
I'm not my father's son. I'm not the image of what he dreamed of, with the strength of Sparta and the patience of Jove.